All right, here we are back again with Dr. Angela Hooks, um, diary journal keeper for over 40 years, fellow spiritual director. It's so good to be with you, Angela. And you know, this practice of tracking our lives, uh, tracking the movement and the presence of God in our lives through the practice of diary writing, uh, tracking and, and keeping pulse with our emotional life through the practice of journaling. This space where the way I said it in some of my early poetry was removing the prayer filter that I
Mm.
that had become somehow attached right here. I think I had like seven prayer filters where what needed to get out
Mhm.
of me or my hands, what needed to be expressed would would go through all these sieves, like theological sieves, cultural, filters. Is this right to say? Can I say this? Is this theologically correct? Is it, all the, uh, the rule keeping aspect and just to begin to take that prayer filter off and just really write it raw,
Mm.
exactly what needs to be said. Um, as I say it out loud, it just feels like an act of faith, to be able to put things just right there on the page without any explanation, without any defense, without any fear of, uh-oh, did I do it wrong? Or, am I in trouble now? Um, so as I kind of speak into this next conversation, something about the diary writing feels intimate.
Mm.
Just this into me you see this connection with self, with God, um, with our story. You were mentioning a few moments ago memoir, but to me memoir is like life story, and yeah, and I just want to say one more thing here, and I'll toss it over to you for um, your wisdom. Is as you've been talking about journaling some, is this a line from Derek Walcott? I think it's called Love After Love, the poem Love After Love.
Mm.
And he says, sit, feast on your life. Yeah, just feast on your life. Yeah, it's a real loving thing to do. To say, your life matters this much.
Mhm.
It's worth the pause. It's worth the reflection. It's worth the sitting. You know, sure, you could feast on a thousand other things, a thousand other news articles, a thousand other books, and maybe that's fine. But your life itself, wow, that's a wonderful thing in itself. So feast on your life, you know.
And
Okay.
that's one of my favorite poems.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Feast on your
yeah.
life.
And that's a great way even to just enter into writing, feasting on your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like what am I going to feast on in my life? And just every
Mm-hmm.
day, as Ignatius says, examine it, right? The graces is the feast,
Yes.
right? Just examine your life, just your day, just the moments,
Yeah.
in that space. And I admit I never used to think I had a prayer altar. Like I meet people, they have these altars and they have all these candles and these pictures. I'm like, I don't have any of that. And I have come to realize the diary is my small altar of prayer.
Mm-hmm.
My best prayers,
Mm-hmm.
my most authentic and, like you said, unfiltered prayers are in the diary.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's all I do, right? Like I wake up early in the morning and it's, Dear Lord, Dear God, and I just start praying and I ask. Sometimes I fill a page and I just pray for all my directees as they come, and I just pray, and you're right, it's intimate, right? Because it's me and God and this paper, and it's just pouring out, and it's just pouring out. And then sometimes I just maybe take a scripture, or a poem, and I write it. Every day I'll write it, but then it'll begin to change, right?
Mhm.
Something will stop. I'm like, I'll write it and then I'll have to stop there and then I'll have to write, like when Derek Walcott's poem, I believe there is that section when he says, I greet myself, you
Mhm.
know, and I smile and I'm thinking, yeah, right. When you're
Greet
writing, you
myself. Yeah.
greet yourself,
Mhm.
right? You greet yourself,
Yeah.
right? You greet yourself in the coming and the going. And that's just like the diary. It really is. It's a prayer altar. It's a place where you can write honestly. And because every diary should have a purpose,
Mhm.
right? I admit I'm not one who writes diaries for purpose because I just write. But I do remember writing a Lenten journal, which means for 40 days, right?
Mhm.
I'm going to write. So there's a purpose right there, right?
Mhm.
If you can't do it every day, a great purpose. I have angst, I have fear, I need God to answer me. I'm going to start keeping a diary. I'm going to keep, and it becomes a spiritual practice, right? There's your spiritual practice because now your prayer life is changing because you're writing it down, right? You're writing it down and you can see it. Because how many times in Holy Writ does God say, write it down, write down a vision, write down what I've told you, write down what you've seen? Sometimes it feels like it's really a command, a holy command to
Mighty
write
God.
down what God has done in your life. And
Wow.
then that changes the dynamics
Yeah.
of me, right? In the diary, me. Oh, let me write down what I've seen, what I've heard. Let me dedicate these words to God. Let the Spirit speak to me. And you mentioned this earlier when we pause. So we think about how hard it is. So many people say, oh, it's just so hard to stop. It's so hard to slow down. Once you say, I'm going to start keeping a diary, a journal, or a notebook, however you want to say it, first of all, you have to pause. You have to pick up the pen, right? I still use a pen. Here's my notebook now. I admit I'm excited about my notebook because it's
Oh,
from
yeah.
Japan.
Oh,
It's the
yeah.
traveler's notebook. My daughter went and I gave her money to get me
Oh
this
my gosh.
traveler's notebook.
Yes.
Yeah, I've never used one. See, I'm insane when it comes to keeping journals. I believe you need to have something that you like,
Yes.
that fits you.
Mhm.
Even your pen. This is not my best pen. My best pen ran out of ink. But your best, like a really good pen, something that's smooth.
Mhm.
Because if you like it, you're going to come to it, right? You're going to come to it. It's just like prayer. Remember when you said, I'm not going to pray because I feel like I have to pray this way, I have to pray this way, I have to not say this. But if you find a way that it's enjoyable, and I'm going to use your word again, when it's intimate, when
Mhm.
it's relationship,
Mhm.
dynamics change. Right?
Yeah.
The dynamics change. So I literally started 2 days ago and I'm like, oh, I'm going to write. And I don't like unlined because I'm kind of slovenly.
Uh-huh.
So guess what? I have to slow down,
That's right.
right? I have to challenge, right? I'm
Mhm.
like, I like this. I like the pages. I'm like, and it works and it's fun. Um, and
What's
that's what we do.
what's rising for me as you say that is being your your prayer altar is how our the body wants to pray.
Yes.
And the lips do, the mouth, the vocal cords, we want to, express, we want to say thank you, we want to
Mm,
ask, we want to be in conversation with with greater love than, bigger mystery than ourselves. And I have my rosary here, and my fingers
right.
are praying. I don't know
Exactly.
what they're saying, but they're but
Right.
with the journaling, it's we're giving it, to me. it's honoring the wisdom of the body too, where yeah, what happens when I put that pencil in my hand and I sit here and I light a candle and here I am, and it's the the hand had something to say to God, that the brain didn't know, and it's almost like that beautiful picture of the body of Christ, like we
Mm,
need everything working together, and so yeah, it's this idea of prayer being a conversation. And when you picked up your Japanese journal, the second thing that came to me is how um, the practice of writing can be a sensual practice, and ought to be, enjoyable. Write how you can with what you can, and yeah, if there's like a texture or a pen or a journal, like this too is part of
yeah,
the process, the beauty of it. It's
yeah,
the little pleasures,
yeah, right,
the little pleasures
right.
like this. I'll say one more thing that's rising about um, the role of journaling and spiritual direction, that you're a
Mm,
spiritual director. Uh, at this point in my journey, I meet with my spiritual director once a month, and I've been doing so for almost a decade. And one of the things I do now, or I have done, is whenever I see that meeting up on the calendar, coming up
mm,
this week or next week, now it's automatic, Angela, but it
mm.
triggers in me to flip back to the last time I had a conversation with my director and to
Oh,
read the present day, to see the ground covered, see, okay, where have I been? what
mm-hmm,
what have been the
right.
moments that have been important. And so when I come to direction, uh,
Mm-hmm,
I may or may not talk about any of that, but it's
right.
like gathering myself up to say, oh, this is where I've been. Maybe I'll talk about something here. Um, yeah. So
I love it.
all that to say, you're inspiring a lot in me right now.
I love it. And right. And you've just said it. It's a great tool. And spirit, because how many times have we heard a directee come and say, I don't really know what I want to talk about.
Mm,
I don't really, but if they've been keeping a journal or a diary or a notebook, writing down the things that have been happening,
mm,
they're coming differently. You know, maybe not all, but something arises. And I really love the way you have a marker, right, on the calendar the day before. Oh, now I know I need to go back and read and see what was there. Maybe there's something I do need to talk about. Maybe there's a joy. Maybe there's a sorrow. Maybe there's a stuck point. So, just the way you have described that twice now, you have two great moments of going back and using that journal. I'm going to share with you. So my husband and I have been married for 10 years in November. And so when we first got married, he's totally going to kill me if he hears this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
mm.
So when we first got married, he said, oh, yeah, I keep a journal. And I was like, oh, great. So I bought him a journal. And I was like, oh, he doesn't keep a journal, right? He does, but he doesn't, like a work journal with notebook, with notes, right? I'm not really talking about that kind of notebook. That's like a field work, right? That's totally different. So I would get the journal and never encourage anybody to read anybody's journal. It's private. If you see anything in it and it's about you, you cannot argue with them because it's moment. That's their
Mhm,
feelings and
mhm,
it has to be
mhm,
respected.
mhm,
I broke those boundaries. I
mhm.
read it, it was empty. There was nothing in there. So I wrote a letter. Dear loved one, when are you going to fill these pages? I noticed you have not written in this journal. So I closed it. Mind you, I knew there wasn't anything in there. So, but if there was, I would have immediately closed it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. I would have immediately closed it. So I wait. Years go by, we move, and I see the journal because I bought him a really nice one. I see it again. I'm like, I wonder, has he been writing? So I open it up again. It's empty. So I don't open to look. Like I don't open like this to look because that means I just open up a page and I wrote him another letter. And I said, aha, I see. And so now a couple of weeks ago, he's been I hear him get up and maybe write. And he goes, hey, you'd be proud of me. I'm writing in my journal. And I'm like, good for you. And I keep wondering, I wonder, did he read what I wrote? But I can't say anything. And this is another thing that's also
Mm,
beautiful for couples to
mm,
share a journal together,
mm,
right? Couples, friends, like you take and you write a page and then you send it and then they write. You can either answer and respond to each other or you can just write. If you wanted to like do something very different
yeah.
in that sense,
Mm,
yeah, it will change the dynamics
yeah.
and always
Interesting.
remembering the rules. Whatever was written, you cannot bring that outside of that space. You
Mm,
know what I mean? Because I admit years ago, my journal was violated, right?
mm,
And the person read it. And then they got angry because they read something about themselves. And so I was at a conference in Colorado with Christina Baldwin and all the big gurus of diary writing. And so Christina Baldwin, um, she writes a book called A Circle Way, I think. Um, we were in a gathering and I explained this thing about someone reading someone else's. And she says, one, it is a violation. Two, it's like, she used the word rape, which is pretty hard, rape
mhm,
of the mind.
mm,
Um, Three, when you write something, sometimes you write that thing for that moment and
mhm,
it doesn't exist all the time.
mhm,
And then she said this, are you ready? Are you sure you didn't purposely want them to read it anyway?
mm,
I was like, what? I'd never really thought about that, right? And that has sat with me for years, right?
mm,
Like, if you have this thing that's so private, why would you leave it for someone else to read? So I really dug deep. I was like, did I leave that in a space because I didn't know how to say what I needed to say to the person, hoping they would read it, right? And I still don't have an answer because I don't know, right? I really don't know. But it's a matter of trust, right? I can leave my journals are everywhere. My husband he never reads them, right? Now my mother, I wouldn't trust her. She's going to tell me though. I know her. She's like, oh, if you leave it open, I'm going to
I
read
will
it.
read that.
I'm
I
going
think,
to. So when
yeah,
you know there's eyes like that, you put it open.
that's
You don't
right.
read it,
I
right?
mean, you're really getting to one of the boundaries, Angela, that makes the honesty that we're talking about earlier really
Yes,
possible. I do work with men who have their own journal, but also have workbooks for recovery addiction. You know, and so coming out of addictions, and so that in itself is its own type of diary and journaling, and to know that these won't be opened without permission, and to not do that to others is key, to like knowing you can really spill your guts,
right.
really spill your guts. But yeah, it's i can I can relate to like, for example, seeing my children write in their journals, their diaries, and like that. Oh, I want to know. I want to know your inner life. What uh and so maybe even that, like, wanting to know can
Exactly.
be uh, maybe that can be a springboard to conversation later. Like,
Mhm.
would you like, if you ever want to share,
Right.
that could be a question. If you ever want to share
Right.
anything from your journals, I'd be happy to hear it if you ever want to share.
Right. Exactly. And that's beautiful. And it's beautiful. And
Yeah.
it can always start too, like my youngest daughter is 28. She refuses to keep a diary. She's tried bullet journal. She's like, I don't like it. I don't want to do it. It's not my thing. right? She takes pictures, she does photo. So
Hmm.
she's,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
she's the one who got this one. And she also bought herself a journal. I should actually touch base with her and see if she's using it. So, but then my oldest daughter, who's 33, I gave her the Artist Way last year. She loved it. She's been a diary keeper for years, right? And it is a beautiful thing to see. And there is the occasion when we're together because we don't live close to each other.
Hmm.
She'll say, "Oh, I wrote this. Would you like me? Can I read it to you?"
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah,
wow, yeah,
that's such a gift. Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's a gift. So it's almost like a trust between parent and child. Husband, whoever it is, it's a trust factor that if someone opens up and they say, I want to read my heart to you,
Hmm.
we have to learn how to just listen,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Not judge. Because even as a director, my directees will say that. They'll say, oh, I wrote this. Can I read it? This is the only way that I can get it out. Can I read it? And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
right, exactly.
Angela, I can't tell you how many times I've done that with my
See?
spiritual director over this decade. And, and I'll talk and we'll share, but there have been so many times where I say something like, can I read this poem I wrote? Or
Yeah.
can I read what I wrote after my grandmother died to you? And then I'll read it out loud.
Mm. Oh,
And then I'll get then a line and it will catch me and it'll
oh,
get me and the tears will come.
oh.
And so this is the mystery. I don't know, this is all we could even go on another however long about that intersection of diary and spiritual direction. But it was important for me to write that down whenever I did.
That's right.
And there was something about sharing it and hearing myself voice it in the presence of someone I trusted that breathed a different kind of life into it that impacted me even more. Uh, and that's happened a lot. That's
Yeah.
happened a lot where I'll just, hey, can I read this? And then I'll read out loud and I'll find myself falling into tears on like a certain
Mm.
line or a certain something. And to me, that's the telltale sign that I've stepped in soul.
Yep.
Whenever I read and then there's the tear, I'm like, oh, that's that's it right there. That was the treasure, and all that.
I love that. I love that. I'm reading one I want to say, I wonder what happens elsewise with that line that brings you to tears. If you were to take that line, so this is like how my
Mm-hmm.
head works, right? That line that takes you to tears, it takes you a different place. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
lifted it out of the page, wrote it on a new page, and then started writing from that line,
Ooh,
right?
that's
Oh
right.
my gosh, something new then arises that comes even more from a memory.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought of when you said the line. I was like, "Ooh, yeah, that's it." Oh, so okay. So that's
Oh my
that's a
gosh.
process, right?
Yeah.
That's a
Well,
thing.
yeah. Okay. One more thing here. I think it was Richard Rohr who was talking about the etymology of obedience.
Okay.
And I'm always interested in etymology and just revisioning some of the words, even in my Christian tradition. And he said, etymologically, obedience means deep listening.
Yes, it does. Because to listen means to obey.
Yeah. And so to this, all this whole conversation feels like deep listening and like listening to our life. And to listen to our life is to listen to God because there is no separation. To listen to my life, to listen to reality, to listen to my days is to listen to the Spirit because there is no this or there is no separation between it is the same.
It is the same.
Yeah, and so yeah, it's and again, I'm not saying everybody has to do it this way or ought to do
No.
it, but could it be that journaling and diary writing is like learning how to listen well? And can that skill be exported to our relationships? If I'm learning how
Ooh.
to listen well to my own life, just could that make me a more compassionate listener to people who are different than me, or
Mm.
culturally, politically? Could this be yeah? Could it be working a muscle, a listening muscle that we carry into our lives?
I'm going to say I believe it can.
Yeah.
Um, Alicia Keys, I'm reading her, I don't know if it's autobiography or memoir. Um, and she says she has a whole album called The Diary,
Mm,
but she says she wrote when she was she writes her own songs. And in that writing, it was so vulnerable, so public, you know what I mean? It was private going into public, but it was for the world. And I'm like, so I'm thinking
mm,
about what you say is like when
mm,
we write in this space and we share, and that's what, and I was like, why didn't I hear about this sooner? You know what I
mm,
mean? Like, I need to
mm,
go back and I'd like to go back and listen
yeah.
to that album. But just to say that the name of it is The Diary because some of it comes from her diary when she was at this vulnerable space, right? And life is moving before she learns how to be silent and pull away. And I'm like, wow, it's just like what you say, right? The diary teaches us how to be in the world, right? I think I could be wrong, but I might be correct that Janet Jackson also writes from her diary, her songs.
Really?
I feel like she said that in an
Yeah.
interview years ago. And I'm like, many poets, like
Hmm.
my one of my favorite, Alice Dunbar Nelson, her diary, there's poems that begin there,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? There's a poem, there's a space in her poem where she's on a boat. This is early 1926, maybe, yeah. And Black people have to sit at the back, the white people sit at the front, and it's hot. And she starts talking about this racist. But then if you later read in an entire essay in a public newspaper, right, she begins to expound on this thing that happened in such a private space, making it something that we all can read and share and see
Hmm.
difference,
Hmm.
right? Culture, just like what you said. So it makes so much sense,
Yeah.
right? That in that space, we start so privately and it can change us so much for the world.
Yeah. Publicly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Starting privately, starting in solitude, and has implications for politics, has implications for how we for justice, for how we are in the world. And I think it's a
yeah,
beautiful place to end.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Angela.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Matthew. It was wonderful to feast on our life.
Yes. Woo. Well, be well. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a
Yes.
good day.